When my husband told me, I invited my ex to your brother's wedding. She's basically family. If you trust me, you'll get it, I smiled and said, of course I do. Then I secretly asked her husband to be my plus one. Let's just say the rehearsal dinner became unforgettable for all the right reasons. If you trust me, you'll get why I invited Hannah to Adam's wedding. Elijah announced this at Sunday dinner. Right between my mother passing the roasted potatoes and my father pouring his third glass of wine. My brother Adam's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. My future sister-in-law Claire kicked me under the table. Hannah, your ex-girlfriend? Adam asked slowly. To my wedding, the one I'm having next month. She's basically family, Elijah explained to my stunned parents, sawing through his chicken like he hadn't just hijacked their dining room. You remember how close we all were? Nobody remembered as it never happened, but I watched my husband construct this elaborate lie while my family sat frozen, and I heard myself say, of course, honey. I completely understand. What Elijah didn't know was that I'd already found Isaac Morrison's number, Hannah's actual husband, saved in my phone since yesterday. Before we continue, if you believe betrayal should be exposed and truth deserves to win, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps others find these stories. Now, let's see how this unfolds. The discovery had been accidental. Saturday morning, I'd been looking for a yoga studio in Tribeca when Hannah Morrison's Instagram popped up in my suggestions. Same Hannah, Elijah's ex, who'd supposedly moved to Seattle 3 years ago for some tech startup opportunity. Except her recent posts were all tagged in Manhattan, brunches in Soho, morning runs in Central Park, and a wedding photo from 2 years ago with a man named Isaac Morrison, real estate developer, with the caption, 2 years with my forever. My mother recovered first, though her smile looked painted on. Hannah, I'm not sure I remember. Of course you do, Elijah interrupted, reaching for more green beans. She helped organize your charity auction that time, the one for the library. My mother had never organized a charity auction. She volunteered at the library's book sales, sure, but nothing fancy enough to need organizing. Yet, she nodded slowly, confused, but too polite to contradict him in front of everyone. Such a sweet girl, Elijah continued, building his fiction brick by brick. She's been dying to see everyone again. Since she's back in town for business, the timing is perfect. Claire squeezed my knee harder under the table. She'd been my friend before dating Adam, knew our entire history. She knew Hannah had been gone from Elijah's life long before he met me. The relationship that had supposedly been ancient history, barely worth mentioning during our early dating days. My father cleared his throat. Well, if she's important to you both. She is, Elijah said firmly, finally looking at me. His eyes held something I'd never seen before. Not quite a challenge, but close. Right, Esther? The correct answer was no. The correct response was to ask why he was inviting his ex-girlfriend to my brother's wedding. The correct move was to point out the inappropriate nature of this entire conversation. Instead, I smiled and passed him the butter dish. Whatever makes you happy, sweetheart. Adam set down his fork completely. I don't remember meeting any Hannah. You were probably away at college, Elijah said smoothly. Too smoothly. He prepared for this conversation, rehearsed these lies. She was around a lot during that time. This was fascinating in its boldness. Adam had gone to Columbia, barely 40 minutes away. He'd been home every other weekend eating these same Sunday dinners. If Hannah had been around a lot, he would have met her. We all knew it. But Elijah kept going, adding details to his fabrication like an artist adding brushstrokes. She knows all the family stories, he said, laughing at some private memory. Remember that time at the shore house? 4th of July. We didn't have a shore house. We'd rented one once 5 years ago, long after Hannah would have exited his life. But my parents exchanged glances, trying to recall a memory that didn't exist while their son-in-law gaslit our entire family over pot roast. The rest of dinner blurred into a performance. Elijah playing the devoted husband, nostalgic about old friendships. My parents confused but accommodating. Adam silently furious but holding back for my sake. Claire practically vibrating with indignation beside him. And me, the understanding wife, cutting my chicken into smaller and smaller pieces while my husband recruited my family into his deception. After dessert, my mother's famous apple pie that tasted like sawdust in my mouth, Elijah helped clear plates while regaling my father with a story about Hannah's supposed new position at a marketing firm. More wise, according to her LinkedIn, which I'd memorized yesterday, she'd been at the same company for 3 years. In the kitchen, Adam cornered me by the dishwasher. "What's going on?" "I don't know what you mean, Esther." His voice was low, urgent. "I've never met this woman. Mom and Dad have never met her. Why is Elijah acting like she's some family friend?" I focused on scraping plates, avoiding his eyes. "Maybe you just don't remember." "Stop." He grabbed my wrist gently. "This is me. Tell me what's happening." Claire appeared in the doorway standing guard. Through the dining room, I could hear Elijah laughing at something my father said. The sound made my skin crawl. "I can't," I whispered. "Not yet. Just trust me, okay? And act normal about Hannah coming to the wedding." Adam's face went through several expressions before landing on concern. "Esther, please. I'm handling it." He wanted to argue. I could see it. My baby brother, who'd protected me from playground bullies and bad boyfriends who'd vetted Elijah thoroughly before approving of our engagement. But something in my face made him step back. "But if you need anything, I know." The ride home was silent except for Elijah humming along to jazz on the radio. His hand rested on my thigh, possessive and familiar. For years of marriage reduced to this performance. Both of us pretending everything was fine while secrets multiplied between us like cancer cells. At a red light, he squeezed my knee. "Thank you for being so understanding about Hannah. I knew you would be. You're not the jealous type." The jealous type. As if betrayal was about jealousy rather than deception. As if inviting your ex-girlfriend to a family wedding was normal behavior for secure couples. "When did she get back to New York?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "A few months ago, maybe." His hand tightened slightly on my leg. "Haven't kept close track." Another lie. Her Instagram showed she'd never left. The yoga studio she tagged yesterday was 6 blocks from Elijah's new gym, the one he joined 2 months ago for his sudden fitness kick. His Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule that never wavered, never produced the expected soreness or gym stories, but had trimmed 20 pounds off his frame. Back in our apartment, Elijah disappeared into the shower while I stood at our 10th floor window, city lights blinking below like coded messages. Somewhere out there, Hannah Morrison was probably lounging in her own apartment with her husband, Isaac, planning what to wear to my brother's wedding. Did Isaac know his wife was resuming an affair? Or was he as blindly trusting as I'd been until yesterday? His number burned in my phone. 1 call, 1 text. That's all it would take to compare notes to confirm what I already knew in my bones. But not yet. First, I needed more proof. Real evidence that would stand up against Elijah's smooth denials and practiced lies. The shower stopped. Soon he'd climb into bed, kiss my forehead, and fall asleep within minutes while I lay awake replaying every business trip, every late meeting, every new shirt and unexplained cologne purchase. The perfect illusion of our marriage had shattered at my parents' dinner table. But I'd keep performing my role a little longer. Because if Elijah wanted to bring Hannah to Adam's wedding, I'd make sure she had company. Isaac Morrison would be my +1, and together we'd give them a reunion they'd never forget. Monday morning arrived with Elijah kissing my forehead before leaving for work. His cologne lingering in the air. Something new and expensive I didn't recognize. The apartment felt different now, like the walls themselves knew about the performance we were both giving. I waited exactly 10 minutes after hearing the elevator close before opening my laptop. Hannah Morrison's Instagram became my obsession. Public profile, 847 posts, each one a potential piece of evidence. I scrolled methodically, screenshot by screenshot, building a folder titled Tax Documents on my desktop. Her life unfolded in reverse. Recent yoga classes in Tribeca, wine tastings in Brooklyn, art gallery openings where she wore dresses that cost more than our mortgage payment. Then I found him. Isaac Morrison appeared first in a wedding photo from 2 years ago. Tall, broad-shouldered with the kind of tired eyes that suggested he worked too much. Real estate developer. According to the tag, his own profile was harder to access, private settings, but his company page, Morrison Properties, was wide open. The conference schedule on his business page made my coffee go cold. Boston Real Estate Summit, March 15th to 17th. The same weekend, Elijah had his emergency investor meeting in Boston. I remembered the video call where Elijah had tried to show me his hotel room, accidentally revealing the lobby for a split second, the Marriott Copley Place, the exact hotel listed as the conference venue on Isaac's company newsletter. My hands trembled as I cross-referenced everything. Isaac's post about productive morning sessions timestamped at 9 a.m. Elijah's text to me about a breakfast meeting running long at 9:07 a.m. Hannah's Instagram story from that same morning, a coffee cup at the Marriott Lounge. No caption, but her manicured hand wearing the pearl ring that had appeared around the same time as Elijah's mysterious credit card charge. 3 days became my timeline for evidence gathering. Tuesday, I called in sick to work and drove to Elijah's gym during his supposed workout window. His car wasn't in the parking lot, but 14 blocks away at a boutique hotel's valet stand. There it was. The same hotel where Hannah had posted a selfie 2 hours earlier, claiming she was at a client lunch. Wednesday brought credit card statements. I'd never checked them before. Trusted him to handle our finances while I managed the household. The entries read like a confession. 11 Madison Park, $400 on a night he'd claimed to be entertaining clients from Tokyo. Except Hannah had posted about date night with just a heart emoji that same evening. The jewelry store charge, $2,847, not the $2,800 I'd estimated from Cartier dated 3 weeks ago. Our anniversary was 6 months away. I photographed everything with my phone, creating duplicates in case he somehow discovered my laptop folder. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and growing by the hour. A reservation at the Greenwich Hotel's restaurant when he was supposedly at a conference in Philadelphia. Theater tickets purchased for a Wednesday matinee when he texted me about back-to-back meetings. A lingerie store charge that certainly hadn't produced anything in my drawer. The most damning discovery came from their synchronized mistakes. Hannah's spa weekend in the Hamptons matched Elijah's golf trip with clients, but the weather that weekend had been torrential rain. No golf course would have been open. Isaac had posted about being in Chicago for a property viewing. 4 people, 2 affairs, 1 massive web of lies that they'd maintained for God knows how long. Thursday evening shattered any remaining doubt. Adam called while I was staring at spreadsheets of evidence, his voice tight with confusion. Esther, what's going on with Elijah? He's called me 3 times about the seating chart. I closed my laptop, pressing the phone closer to my ear. What about it? He keeps insisting Hannah needs a table with a good view of the ceremony. He actually suggested moving Aunt Patricia to accommodate her. Aunt Patricia, who's 93 and Dad's favorite sister. My brother's frustration bled through the phone. He'd never particularly warmed to Elijah. Too smooth, he'd said once, but had accepted him for my sake. And get this, Adam continued, he offered to pay for Hannah's hotel room. Said it was his wedding gift to us. What kind of wedding gift is paying for your ex-girlfriend's accommodation? I don't know. I managed, though I knew exactly what kind. The kind that meant he planned to spend the night with her. Should I be worried? Is everything okay between you two? The concern in his voice nearly broke me. I wanted to tell him everything to let him storm over here and confront Elijah with his protective brother rage. But not yet. We're fine. Maybe he's just trying to be friendly. Adam's silence said he didn't buy it, but he let it drop. If you need anything, I know. Thanks. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of our living room. City lights painting patterns on the ceiling. Elijah had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Every detail orchestrated to give him a weekend with Hannah while using my brother's wedding as cover. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. Friday morning, I found Isaac Morrison's business website. Morrison Properties had a clean, professional design with his direct email at the bottom of the contact page. I opened a new message and stared at the blank screen for an hour. How do you tell a stranger their marriage is a lie? How do you introduce yourself as a fellow victim? 20 drafts later, each one deleted. I finally typed, "Your wife is attending my brother's wedding as my husband's guest." Simple, direct, undeniable. My finger hovered over the send button while rain started pattering against the windows. This would change everything. Once sent, there was no taking it back, no pretending I didn't know, no returning to the comfortable lie of my marriage. I hit send at 11:47 a.m. Then I drove to my favorite coffee shop, ordered a latte I didn't drink, and waited. My phone sat face up on the table, silent for hours that felt like days. Customers came and went. The barista asked twice if I needed anything else. The rain stopped, started, stopped again. At 5:15 a.m. the next morning, my phone buzzed. I've been suspicious for months. Let's meet. 7 words that confirmed everything while revealing nothing. Isaac Morrison knew, or at least suspected. We were two strangers about to unite over the betrayal of the people we'd promised to love forever. I typed back, "Financial District Starbucks, Monday 10 a.m. His response was immediate. "I'll bring proof." Proof. As if my folder of screenshots and receipts wasn't enough. As if we needed more evidence that our spouses were liars who'd turned our marriages into elaborate theaters while they played out their rekindled romance. The weekend crawled by with excruciating slowness. Elijah attended a Saturday client golf outing that lasted 9 hours, returning home with dry clothes despite the afternoon thunderstorm. Sunday, he made breakfast, his guilt pancakes. I'd started calling them in my head while humming off-key to jazz. I smiled, ate 2 bites, and claimed an upset stomach. Monday morning finally arrived. I left the apartment at my usual time, but drove past my office building, continuing downtown toward the financial district. The Starbucks on Pearl Street was already crowded with bankers and lawyers grabbing their morning fixes. I ordered an espresso I didn't want and claimed a corner table where I could watch the door. Isaac Morrison walked in at exactly 10 a.m. and I knew him instantly, not just from his photos. Something in the way he moved, careful and deliberate, like someone who'd learned not to trust the ground beneath his feet. He spotted me immediately, probably recognizing the same shell-shocked look in my eyes. "Esther." His voice was deeper than I'd expected, rougher around the edges. I nodded, gesturing to the chair across from me. He sat down heavily, pulling a manila envelope from his messenger bag before even ordering coffee. "I brought receipts," he said without preamble. 6 months' worth. He slid papers across the table, credit card statements with highlighted charges, hotel bills, restaurant receipts. My hand shook slightly as I picked up the first one, the Ritz-Carlton Miami Valentine's Day weekend, a charge for $3,200 that included couples massage, champagne service, and a late checkout. "Hannah said it was a work incentive trip," Isaac explained, his voice flat. "Top performers at her company, except I called her company. They don't do incentive trips. Haven't in 3 years due to budget cuts." The next receipt was from 11 Madison Park. $400 for dinner for 2. The same night Elijah claimed to be entertaining Tokyo clients. This was their anniversary dinner, Isaac said, pointing to the date. The anniversary of when they first started dating in college. She celebrates it every year. Used to drag me to some fancy place, but this year she said she was working late. I pulled out my phone showing him my own evidence folder. Elijah's calendar has fake meetings with the Thompson account every Tuesday and Thursday. I called Thompson's secretary. "Those meetings never existed." Isaac laughed. A harsh broken sound. Hannah has him saved in her phone as Pilates instructor. Found that out when her actual Pilates instructor called about a scheduling change, and I got confused. We spent the next hour creating a timeline on coffee shop napkins, mapping out the elaborate choreography of deception. Every business trip aligned with a conference. Every late night matched a work emergency. Every weekend apart had been carefully orchestrated. Miami conference, I wrote, drawing an arrow to Isaac's cruise receipt. Boston Summit, he added, connecting it to my hotel charge. Golf weekend, I scribbled, linking it to Hannah's spa retreat Instagram posts. The pattern was so clear, so obvious once we laid it out. They'd been carrying on for at least 6 months, possibly longer. The recent intensity, Elijah's new clothes, Hannah's jewelry, suggested things were escalating. The wedding, Isaac said suddenly, staring at our makeshift timeline. Your brother's wedding. They're planning something. I nodded, sipping espresso that had gone cold. Elijah's been obsessing over the seating arrangements. Wants Hannah at the family table with the best view. Hannah bought a dress, $3,000, from Bergdorf's. Told me it was for her company gala, but I checked. There's no gala scheduled. We sat in silence for a moment, surrounded by the morning rush of the financial district. Two strangers united by the implosion of our marriages. What do you want to do? Isaac asked finally. What do you mean? We could confront them privately. Pack their stuff, change the locks, serve papers, clean and simple. I thought about it, the civilized route, the mature response, the path that would minimize drama and preserve dignity. Then I remembered Elijah at my parents' dinner table, lying to my family's faces, recruiting them into his deception. Or, I prompted. Isaac leaned back, a ghost of a smile crossing his face. Or we could give them exactly what they want. A wedding together, just not the way they planned it. You mean I come as your plus one? You're already invited, obviously. They walk in expecting their secret rendezvous and instead find us together. Public accountability, no room for denial or gaslighting. The idea was insane, petty, potentially explosive. It was also perfect. They'd be completely blindsided, I said slowly, warming to the concept. In front of your entire family, their lies exposed with witnesses. We ordered another round of coffee, real coffee this time, not props for our heavy conversation, and refined the plan. Isaac would arrive separately after Elijah and Hannah were already there. We time it perfectly for maximum impact. No violence, no screaming, just the quiet devastation of truth delivered in evening wear. Are you sure about this? Isaac asked as we prepared to leave. Once we do this, there's no going back. Our marriages are over. They're already over, I replied, surprised by my own certainty. We're just the last to know. That evening, I sat in my car outside our apartment building for a full hour. Through the 10th floor windows, I could see shadows moving. Elijah home from work, probably making dinner, playing the devoted husband while texting Hannah about their upcoming weekend. My phone rang. I'm sitting outside my house, he said without greeting. Hannah's inside making dinner, acting completely normal. Kissed me when I got home like she didn't spend Valentine's Day in Miami with your husband. Are we really doing this? I heard him exhale slowly. I keep thinking maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe we're misreading everything. The receipts don't lie, Isaac. No, he agreed quietly. They don't. We stayed on the phone. Two people sitting in separate cars watching the windows of our fraudulent lives, drawing strength from shared devastation. Living this lie is killing me, I admitted. Every morning I make his coffee and pretend I don't know. Every night I sleep next to him and wonder if he's dreaming about her. Last night Hannah told me she loved me, Isaac said while wearing the earrings I now know he bought her. How do they compartmentalize like that? I don't know. I don't understand any of it. Me neither. He paused. But I'd rather burn it all down than keep pretending. Even if we end up alone, we're already alone, Esther. We're just sharing beds with strangers who happen to be lying to us. He was right. The loneliness of deception was worse than the prospect of actual solitude. At least alone, I'd have my dignity, my truth, my self-respect. Saturday's rehearsal dinner, I said. Lou Bernardine at 7. I'll be there at 7:30. Give them time to get comfortable. Isaac, what if we're making a huge mistake? His laugh was soft, almost gentle. Then at least it'll be our mistake, not theirs. After we hung up, I sat for another moment, watching Elijah's shadow pass by the window. In 5 days, everything would change. The comfortable lie would shatter, replaced by whatever came after truth. It was terrifying. It was necessary. It was time. I walked into the apartment, legs still shaky from sitting in the car so long, to find Elijah in the kitchen with an apron on, something I hadn't seen in 2 years. The smell of garlic and rosemary filled the space. He was making chicken piccata, my favorite, the dish he'd cooked on our 3rd date when I knew I was falling for him. Perfect timing, he said, not looking up from the pan. Dinner's almost ready. Open that Poggio in the fridge. Tuesday, 5 days until the rehearsal dinner, and suddenly my husband had transformed into a character from a romantic movie. I uncorked the wine with steady hands, though inside I was screaming. This was guilt cooking. Every herb, every perfectly placed caper was an attempt to balance some internal scale. What's the occasion? I asked, handing him a glass. Does there have to be an occasion to cook for my beautiful wife? The word beautiful stuck in my throat. He hadn't called me that in months. Now with Hannah's arrival imminent, I was suddenly visible again. Wednesday brought flowers. Not just any flowers. Peonies. Soft pink peonies from the expensive florist on Madison Avenue. The kind that cost $30 per stem. He'd forgotten my birthday last year, but now 3 days before he planned to spend a wedding weekend with his ex, he remembered my favorite flower. Saw them and thought of you, he said, kissing my cheek while I arranged them in water. His lips felt like a brand, marking me as the fool who didn't know. That afternoon, while he was at his supposed gym session, I went shopping. Not browsing, hunting. I needed armor for Saturday night, something that would make me feel powerful when my world exploded. The 3rd store had it, an emerald green dress that hugged without clinging, sophisticated with an edge of danger. The color matched the earrings Elijah had given me on our first anniversary back when his gifts were still for me. The saleswoman held up a mirror as I turned. Special occasion. You could say that. A funeral of sorts. She laughed, thinking I was joking. I bought the dress and shoes to match. Heels high enough to look him in the eye when everything fell apart. Thursday, Elijah offered a foot massage after dinner. He pulled my feet into his lap while we watched TV. His thumbs working the arches with practiced pressure. His phone buzzed every few minutes on the side table. Each time his hands would pause, his eyes would flick to the screen, but he didn't pick it up. The restraint must have been killing him. Who keeps texting? I asked innocently. Just work stuff. Johnson's being demanding about the quarterly reports. Johnson was his supervisor who'd been on vacation in Bermuda all week. According to the out-of-office reply I'd gotten when I tested Elijah's lie by emailing about a fictional dinner party. I took a photo of him massaging my feet, his wedding ring visible, the TV showing the timestamp. I sent it to Isaac with the caption, "The guilt is strong tonight." Hannah must be getting excited. Isaac replied immediately. Hannah just spent an hour on the phone with her friend in the bathroom. I could hear her giggling. Friday morning changed everything. I was making breakfast when Elijah emerged from the bedroom in his best casual outfit. The jeans that made him look 10 years younger, the polo that brought out his eyes. I'm picking up Hannah from the airport this afternoon, he announced, pouring coffee like this was normal conversation. Her flight gets in at 3. It's on my way from the office. The airport was 40 minutes in the opposite direction from his office. That's nice of you, I managed, flipping pancakes I wouldn't eat. Well, she doesn't know the city anymore. Another lie. According to her Instagram, she'd been at a wine bar in Soho just last night. I'll probably show her around a bit. Help her get settled at her hotel. Which hotel? The Marriott in Times Square. I nodded, knowing Isaac had already confirmed she'd booked a room at the St. Regis, where Elijah coincidentally had a mysterious charge on our credit card. He spent 20 minutes styling his hair, something he hadn't done since our dating days. Applied cologne in 3 places: wrists, neck, and chest. I watched from the doorway as he checked himself in the mirror, adjusting and readjusting his collar. "You look nice," I said. He startled, not having noticed me watching. "Just want to look presentable for the wedding weekend." "It's Friday. The wedding's tomorrow, right?" "But there's the welcome drinks tonight." There were no welcome drinks. Adam and Claire were having a quiet family dinner. After he left, I photographed his cologne collection. 3 new bottles in the past 2 months. Documented the receipt for a haircut at a salon that cost $150. Found the shopping bag from Nordstrom hidden in his closet with tags for clothes he hadn't worn yet, saving them for tomorrow. I met Isaac at a park in Battery City at noon. He looked exhausted, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. "Hannah asked me to help her pack last night," he said without preamble. "Wanted my opinion on outfits. She tried on the Versace dress and asked if it made her look fat. The dress she bought to seduce your husband, and she wanted my opinion. Elijah ironed 5 shirts this morning. Then chose the one that Hannah complimented once 3 months ago on his Instagram. We sat on a bench watching tourists take photos. Both of us living in houses that had become crime scenes. Are we ready for tomorrow?" Isaac asked. "My dress is hanging in the guest room closet. Shoes are polished. I have our story straight. We met through professional networking when you were looking for office space near my company. Hannah mentioned the rehearsal dinner 12 times yesterday. She's been dieting for 3 weeks for this. Elijah got a teeth whitening treatment on Monday." We looked at each other and laughed. Not happy laughter, but the kind that comes when crying would take too much energy. 7:30 tomorrow, Isaac confirmed, checking his watch. "I'll wait in the lobby until I see them go in, then give it 5 minutes. They'll be at the family table near the front. My parents insist on being close to the podium for speeches. Perfect view for everyone to see their faces when I walk in." We shook hands, formal like business partners closing a deal. In a way, we were a deal to end the charade, to stop pretending we didn't know our spouses were liars who'd turned our marriages into theater. "Isaac," I called as he started to walk away. "What if they try to explain? What if they have some story that makes sense?" He turned back, removing his sunglasses so I could see his eyes, tired, sad, but absolutely certain. "There's no story that explains 6 months of receipts, Esther. No explanation that justifies the lies, the planning, the calculated deception. They made their choice every single day for months. Tomorrow, we're just showing them we know." He was right. Tomorrow would be devastating, but it would also be honest. For the first time in months, maybe years, everyone would see the truth. Saturday arrived with the kind of bright cloudless sky that seemed to mock the storm brewing inside me. The Waldorf Astoria lobby buzzed with wedding guests, and I stood near the check-in desk, watching relatives arrive, each one requiring a performance of normalcy I wasn't sure I could maintain. "Esther, darling," Aunt Margaret swooped in, her pearls catching the chandelier light. "Where's that handsome husband of yours?" "Getting someone from the airport," I said, accepting her powdered cheek kiss. "An old friend." Elijah appeared moments later, his hand finding the small of my back with practiced intimacy. The touch burned through my dress fabric. He changed into his new suit, the Tom Ford he'd hidden in the closet, and his teeth were blindingly white when he smiled at my aunt. "Margaret, you look 20 years younger," he charmed, and she actually giggled. This was Elijah at his best, deploying compliments like currency, purchasing goodwill he'd soon need. His phone vibrated against my hip where he kept it in his pocket. He didn't check it, but his fingers tightened slightly on my waist. Hannah texting, probably confirming their plans while he stood here playing devoted husband. Such a lovely hotel, Aunt Margaret continued. Perfect for Adam's big day. Speaking of which, where's your brother? Probably having a nervous breakdown, I said, watching Elijah's jaw tense. He hated when I mentioned Adam's anxiety about the wedding details. It reminded him that this was my brother's day, not his romantic rendezvous. More relatives arrived in waves. Cousins from Boston, my father's business partner, Claire's extended family from Connecticut. Elijah worked the room like a politician, shaking hands and remembering names while checking his phone every time he thought I wasn't looking. His tie had been adjusted so many times that the knot was starting to look crooked. My mother appeared at my elbow during a lull. Elegant in her pearl-gray dress. Elijah seems nervous, she observed, watching him laugh too loudly at my uncle's golf joke. Is everything all right? He's just excited about the wedding, I said, the truth burning my tongue. He keeps asking about the seating arrangements. Wanted to make sure someone named Hannah has a good view. Do we know a Hannah? Before I could answer, Adam materialized in the corridor. Still in jeans and a t-shirt despite the rehearsal dinner being hours away. He grabbed my arm, steering me toward a quiet alcove near the elevators. We need to talk, he said, his voice tight. Elijah just cornered me again. He's obsessed with this Hannah person. Offered me $500 to move her to the main family table. 500 had it ready in an envelope. What the hell is going on, Esther? I looked at my baby brother, 6'2" now, but still the kid who defended me from playground bullies. His wedding day was tomorrow, and here was my husband trying to hijack it for his affair. Trust me, I said, squeezing his hand. Please, just get through tonight, and I promise everything will make sense. Esther, it'll be a story you'll tell your grandchildren. The most memorable rehearsal dinner in family history. He searched my face, seeing something there that made him step back. You're scaring me a little. Good. Hold on to that feeling. You'll need it later. Claire appeared radiant in a sundress, looping her arm through Adam's. Everything okay? Family drama? Adam muttered. The usual. She looked at me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. If you need backup, I might, I admitted, just be ready around 7:30. Back in my hotel room at 5 p.m., I stood before the mirror in my underwear. The emerald dress hanging on the bathroom door like a promise. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, my best friend who'd been my lifeline through this week of insanity. You've got this, she wrote. Channel your inner goddess. Destroy them with elegance. The makeup went on like war paint. Foundation smooth as armor. Eyeliner sharp as weapons. My hand stayed steady despite the earthquake in my chest. This was happening. In 2 hours, the lie would die and whatever came after would at least be real. At 6:45, I zipped up the dress, the emerald fabric transforming me into someone I barely recognized. Someone powerful, dangerous, ready. My phone lit up with Isaac's message. In position in the lobby, Hannah just posted an Instagram story from her Uber. She's wearing the Versace. Elijah left 10 minutes ago to get her, I replied. See you on the other side. One last look in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the trusting wife who'd smiled through Sunday dinner lies. This was someone else. Someone who'd gathered receipts like weapons and chosen truth over comfortable fiction. The elevator ride felt endless. Each floor counting down to detonation. The lobby was quieter now, most guests already heading to dinner or getting ready in their rooms. I walked through like a ghost, heels clicking on marble, several heads turning to track my progress. The emerald dress was doing its job. Lou Bernardine's private dining room glowed with soft light and fresh flowers. My parents were already there arranging place cards with the obsessive attention to detail that made them perfect party hosts. My mother looked up, her face brightening. Darling, you look stunning. That dress. Thanks, Mom. I picked up a place card with Hannah's name, noting its position at the family table. exactly where Elijah had paid to put it. Everything's perfect. The champagne flute someone pressed into my hand remained untouched. I couldn't risk alcohol. Not tonight. I needed every brain cell firing, every reaction under control. At 7:05 cousins started arriving. Claire's parents, my father's brother from Philadelphia. I made small talk about tomorrow's weather forecast, about Adam's nervousness, about anything except the bomb about to explode in this beautiful room. 7:10, my phone vibrated. Isaac, they just walked in together. His hand is on her back. They're laughing. I typed back with steady fingers. Incoming. Then I positioned myself with a clear view of the entrance. Champagne prop in hand, smile fixed in place. The avalanche was rolling now, gravity pulling it toward impact, and there was no force on earth that could stop it. The door opened. Elijah walked in first, his face glowing with the particular happiness of a man who thought he was getting away with everything. Behind him, Hannah in her Versace dress, blonde hair cascading over bare shoulders, looking exactly like the kind of woman men destroyed marriages for. They moved through the room like a couple, her hand brushing his arm, him guiding her with subtle touches that anyone watching would recognize as intimate. My mother noticed. I saw her face shift from welcome to confusion. My father's eyes narrowed. Adam stood slowly from his seat. Elijah brought Hannah straight to me, probably thinking he'd get the introduction over with quickly. Neutralize any awkwardness with his charm and confidence. He had no idea he was walking into his own execution. Darling, he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek while Hannah watched with barely concealed satisfaction. This is Hannah. Hannah, my wife, Esther. So lovely to finally meet you, Hannah purred, extending a manicured hand. Elijah's told me so much about you. I took her hand, noting the pearl bracelet that matched the earrings Elijah had bought, completing the set. Has he? How interesting, since he's told me almost nothing about you. The door opened again. Isaac walked in like he owned the room. 6'3" in a charcoal suit that made him look like a man who'd come to collect a debt. He paused in the doorway, scanning the room with deliberate slowness, letting everyone see him before he moved. The conversations near the entrance died first, then spread through the room like a wave as heads turned to track the stranger's progress. Sorry I'm late, he said, his voice cutting through the sudden quiet. Traffic was murder. The champagne glass slipped from Hannah's hand. The crystal shattered against the marble floor with a sound like breaking bells. Golden liquid splashing across her Versace dress and designer shoes. The entire room froze, watching champagne spread between the tables like spilled secrets. Isaac. Hannah's voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. Her face had gone the color of old paper. All that carefully applied makeup suddenly standing out against bloodless skin. Elijah jumped up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. You weren't invited. This is a private event. Actually, I said, standing slowly, smoothing my emerald dress with deliberate calm. He's my plus one. Isaac, honey, come sit. You're right next to me. The word honey landed like a grenade. My mother's hand flew to her throat. Adam's mouth fell open. Claire pulled out her phone and I saw the red recording light appear. What's going on? My father demanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd built a business from nothing and didn't tolerate nonsense. Isaac walked through the wreckage of the champagne glass, his shoes crunching on crystal shards. What's going on is that my wife and your son-in-law have been having an affair for at least 6 months. He pulled out his phone, swiping through screens with practiced efficiency. Should I start with the Miami cruise she said was a work incentive or the Boston conference where they shared a room at the Marriott? That's not, we didn't, Hannah stammered, trying to stand, but her heel caught in her wet dress hem. Save it, Isaac said, his voice flat and terrible. I have receipts, credit card statements, text messages where you saved his number as Pilates instructor. Really, Hannah? Pilates? Elijah's face cycled through emotions, shock, anger, calculation, before settling on denial. This is ridiculous. Hannah and I are old friends. Knows that. She understands. I understand plenty, I interrupted, pulling my own phone from my clutch. Like how your Thompson account meetings never existed. Thompson's secretary confirmed that when I called every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months, you were in fake meetings. My cousin Barbara gasped audibly. Someone dropped a fork. The jewelry receipt was interesting, too. I continued scrolling through my evidence folder. $2,800 at Cartier 3 weeks ago. Our anniversary isn't for 6 months, Elijah. But Hannah's wearing new pearls tonight. What a coincidence. Hannah's hand flew to her throat, covering the pearl necklace like she could make it disappear. The hotel charges were my favorite, Isaac added, his voice gaining momentum. The St. Regis 4 times in the past 2 months, always on nights when Hannah had client dinners and Elijah had conferences. My mother stood up, her face a masterpiece of controlled fury. Is this true? Have you been carrying on with this woman while married to my daughter? Elijah tried his charm one more time, spreading his hands in a gesture of innocence. This is all being blown out of proportion. Hannah needed support during a difficult time. I was being a friend. A friend doesn't buy lingerie, Isaac said quietly, and the room went completely silent. $800 at La Perla. I found the receipt in her jewelry box hidden under earrings you bought her. Hannah made a sound like a wounded animal. Isaac, please, let's discuss this privately. Privately? Isaac laughed harsh and bitter. Like your private discussions with him, your private trips, your private hotel rooms. No, I think public is perfect. All these people should know what kind of woman is attending this wedding. My father stood up slowly, deliberately, like a judge preparing to deliver a verdict. Elijah, Hannah, you need to leave now. But Elijah started, no. My father's voice broke no argument before. I have hotel security escort you out. Adam finally found his voice. Wait. Everyone turned to look at him. Sir, did you know? Did you plan this? I met my brother's eyes across the room. I found out 2 weeks ago. Isaac and I compared notes. We decided if they wanted to attend a wedding together so badly, they should get their wish. Just not the way they planned. The room erupted. Aunts whispered furiously to uncles. Cousins stared with naked fascination. Claire's mother covered her mouth in shock while her father shook his head in disgust. But my mother, my proper etiquette-obsessed mother, started laughing. Not hysterical laughter, but deep genuine appreciation. That's my daughter, she said, raising her champagne glass to me. That's my brilliant daughter. Hannah stood on shaking legs, champagne still dripping from her designer dress. This is entrapment. You planned this. We planned this, I asked, my voice sharp enough to cut. You've been planning an affair for months. We just planned its ending. She grabbed Elijah's arm. We're leaving. But Elijah wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me. And for the first time since this started, I saw real loss in his eyes. Not guilt, not anger, but the dawning realization of what he'd thrown away. Esther, don't. I said simply. Just don't. Hannah pulled him toward the door, her heels clicking frantically on the marble. But at the threshold, Elijah turned back. This isn't over, he said, his voice low and threatening. I raised my champagne glass, finally taking a sip of the liquid I'd been holding for an hour. Actually, it is. My lawyer will be in touch on Monday. They left, Hannah's Versace dress swishing, Elijah's shoulders rigid with humiliation. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded like the end of everything. The room stayed frozen for another heartbeat. Then, Uncle Richard started slow clapping. Aunt Margaret joined. Soon, half the room was applauding while the other half sat in stunned silence. Isaac walked over to me, extending his hand formally. Thank you for inviting me. This was therapeutic. I shook his hand, feeling the tremor in both our grips. Thank you for coming, for being brave enough to do this. They chose this, he said quietly, so only I could hear. Every day for months, they chose this. We just chose to stop pretending we didn't know. A waiter appeared with a broom, sweeping up the shattered champagne glass. The metaphor was almost too perfect, cleaning up the glittering mess of our marriages, piece by broken piece. Adam stood and raised his glass. Well, this is definitely going to be a wedding weekend nobody forgets. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. People started moving again, conversations resuming in hushed tones. The rehearsal dinner would continue, but everything had changed. The comfortable lies were dead, replaced by uncomfortable truth. My father appeared at my elbow, his hand gentle on my shoulder. Are you all right? I considered the question. My marriage was over. My husband had just been exposed as a liar and a cheat in front of my entire family. Tomorrow was my brother's wedding, and I had turned the rehearsal dinner into a soap opera. I will be, I said, and for the first time in weeks, I actually believed it. The waiter approached tentatively with our entree, looking like someone defusing a bomb. Should I serve the main course? My mother, ever the hostess, even in chaos, straightened her shoulders. Yes, please. We're still celebrating my son's wedding tomorrow. Isaac and I ended up seated together at the family table. The empty chairs where Elijah and Hannah should have been gaped like missing teeth. My Aunt Barbara leaned across, patting my hand with her paper-soft fingers. I never liked him, she whispered conspiratorially. Too much cologne. Men who wear that much cologne are hiding something. Uncle Richard raised his whiskey to unexpected entertainment and family members with backbone. The toast rippled through the room, glasses lifting with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Some relatives looked scandalized, others thrilled by the drama. My grandmother, 91 and sharp as a blade, cackled from her wheelchair. Best rehearsal dinner I've been to in 70 years, she announced. Better than my nephew's. When the bride's father punched the groom, Adam stood up, tapping his knife against his glass. The room quieted, everyone eager for his reaction to his rehearsal dinner becoming a battlefield. Well, he started, looking directly at me, my sister just gave us a story that'll last generations. My kids will hear about Aunt Esther's legendary rehearsal dinner takedown. So, here's to Esther, who showed us all that truth, even when it's ugly, is better than a beautiful lie. The applause was genuine this time. Claire blew me a kiss from across the table. My father reached over, squeezing my shoulder with his calloused hand. A wordless message of support that meant more than any speech. Isaac picked at his salmon, looking shell-shocked now that the adrenaline was fading. Did we really just do that? We did. My wife of 3 years just ran out covered in champagne with her affair partner. My husband of 4 years just got exposed in front of everyone I'm related to. We looked at each other and started laughing. Not happy laughter, but the kind that comes when crying would take energy we didn't have. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of careful conversation. Everyone avoided mentioning Elijah or Hannah, talking instead about tomorrow's weather forecast, the beautiful flower arrangements, anything safe. Isaac and I ate in companionable silence. 2 shipwreck survivors sharing a life raft. At 10 o'clock, as guests began leaving, my father pulled me aside. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. That took courage. And don't worry about lawyers. I'll cover whatever you need. Sunday dawned bright and perfect, the kind of September day that made you believe in fresh starts. I stood in my bridesmaid dress, soft lavender that Claire had chosen months ago, watching her and Adam exchange vows in the hotel garden. No empty chairs, no unwanted guests, just 2 people promising to love each other honestly. When it came time for readings, I approached the microphone with Mary Oliver's poem about resilience. My voice stayed steady through. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? But several guests dabbed at their eyes, understanding the subtext. During the father-daughter dance, my dad whispered, Randall Clearwater is the best divorce attorney in the city. Already made you an appointment for Tuesday. Dad, no arguments. That man humiliated you publicly. We're going to make sure he pays appropriately. The bouquet toss came after dinner. Claire aimed directly at me. We both knew it, and I caught it reflexively. The crowd cheered, but I immediately handed it to my 16-year-old cousin, Emma. Your turn for fairy tales, I told her. I'm taking a break from wedding traditions. Everyone laughed, but knowingly. The story had already spread through the reception like wildfire. Elijah's absence was explained in whispers, each retelling adding new details, some true, some embellished. My phone started buzzing during the cake cutting. I'd forgotten I'd turned it back on. 27 messages, mostly from numbers I didn't recognize. Then I saw Hannah's Instagram post shared by a mutual acquaintance. Sometimes you learn that people you trusted are toxic. When someone's ex-spouse can't let go and creates elaborate scenes to embarrass you, it shows their true character. Rising above the negativity and focusing on my truth. The audacity was breathtaking. She was trying to flip the narrative, paint herself as the victim of a jealous ex-spouse. The comments were initially supportive. Friends who didn't know better offering heart emojis and sympathetic words. Then Isaac struck back. He posted a simple timeline on his Facebook, tagged enough mutual connections to ensure visibility. February 14th, Hannah at work retreat/receipt from Miami Ritz-Carlton for two. March 15th to 17th, Hannah at conference/Boston hotel charges matching Elijah's stay. April 22nd, Hannah buying work clothes/lingerie store receipt for $800. May 10th, Hannah at client dinner/reservation for 2 at 11 Madison Park. He ended with, receipts don't lie. People do. Within an hour, Hannah's post disappeared. The comments on Isaac's timeline exploded. Friends expressing shock, choosing sides, sharing their own suspicions. Someone from Hannah's company commented that there hadn't been a work retreat in February. Another mentioned seeing her at a restaurant with a man who wasn't Isaac. By Monday morning, Elijah had texted 18 times. I didn't read them, just screenshot them for the lawyer. His sister called, then his mother. Both leaving voicemails about working things out and not throwing away a marriage over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. 6 months of calculated deception reduced to a misunderstanding. Sarah came over Monday evening with wine and packing boxes. We're erasing him, she announced. Every trace. We went through the apartment methodically. His clothes into boxes labeled with the dates of his fake meetings. Thompson account. February 10th, golf weekend, March 3rd. His toiletries, his books, his collection of vintage watches he'd spent our savings on. For years of marriage fit into 12 boxes. You want to keep anything? Sarah asked, holding up our wedding album. I took it, flipped through once. There we were, young and stupid and believing in forever. Then handed it back. Ship it to his mother. She paid for the photographer. Tuesday brought lawyers. Wednesday brought apartment hunting. Thursday brought paperwork that made my marriage look like a business dissolution. Elijah had already moved to a studio in Queens. According to his attorney, Hannah's startup mysteriously lost 2 major investors who'd heard about the scandal through New York's impossibly small professional network. Friends crawled out of the woodwork with their suspicions. I always thought something was off, became the chorus. The way he looked at his phone, how he never included you in work events. That time I saw him at a restaurant when he said he was traveling. None of them had said anything before. Funny how clarity only comes after the explosion. 3 months passed in a blur of paperwork and empty evenings. Then Tuesday arrived with an innocuous manila envelope from Clearwater and Associates. The divorce papers finally ready for signatures. I sat at my kitchen table, my table now, not ours, and pulled out the Mont Blanc pen Elijah had given me for our 2nd anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me as I signed my married name away with his gift. Each signature felt like shedding skin. Esther Blackwood dissolving back into Esther Carver, the woman I'd been before. I'd believed in forever with someone who treated marriage like a convenience. I texted Isaac. Papers signed. Meet for coffee. Pearl Street Starbucks in an hour. We need to celebrate. He was already there when I arrived. 2 lattes waiting. He looked different, lighter somehow, like gravity had loosened its grip. His wedding ring was gone, leaving a pale indent on his finger that would fade with time. To freedom, he said, raising his paper cup. To surviving, I countered. We clinked cups and laughed at the absurdity of toasting with coffee shop lattes to the end of our marriages. Did you hear about Elijah? Isaac asked, scrolling through his phone. LinkedIn says he's seeking new opportunities. Translation: fired. The partners at Elijah's firm had apparently taken a dim view of the scandal. Something about reputation and professional conduct. He'd updated his profile to consultant, which everyone knew meant unemployed with ego protection. Hannah's not doing much better, Isaac continued. Lost 3 major clients last month. Turns out nobody wants their brand managed by someone who became infamous for destroying marriages at a rehearsal dinner. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I felt nothing. Their downfall was just consequence meeting action as natural as gravity. Are you dating? Isaac asked suddenly. Random question, much. I met someone. She's a pediatrician at Mount Si. He smiled. Really smiled for the first time since I'd known him. She actually works her night shifts. No mysterious conferences. No Pilates instructor contacts. That's wonderful, Isaac. Your turn. Anyone? I thought about David, the chef I'd met at the farmer's market 3 weeks ago. He'd asked for my number while holding heirloom tomatoes. His hand stained purple from handling beets. On our first date, he couldn't hide where he'd been. His fingers smelled like rosemary from prep work. Maybe, I admitted, a chef. Early days. A chef's perfect built-in lie detector. Can't claim he was at work if he doesn't smell like garlic. We met monthly after that at the same coffee shop, same corner table. Not because we were clinging to shared trauma, but because we'd become actual friends. Who else could understand the specific betrayal of discovering your spouse's affair through Instagram stories and credit card receipts? Catherine joined us once, curious about the woman who'd helped Isaac through his divorce. She was lovely, warm, direct, with tired eyes that came from actual night shifts, not fabricated ones. She thanked me for being there when Isaac needed someone who understood. Most people say just move on like it's that simple, she said. They don't get that betrayal rewires your brain. You saved him from going through that alone. David met Isaac the following month. They bonded over their mutual confusion about how anyone could throw away a marriage for an affair. David, whose restaurant closed at 11 every night without fail, couldn't fathom the elaborate lies our exes had maintained. I barely have energy to shower after service, he said, flour under his fingernails from morning bread. Managing a double life sounds exhausting. 6 months later, Adam and Claire's first anniversary arrived with a small party at my parents' house. The same dining room where Elijah had first announced Hannah's invitation, now filled with genuine laughter instead of lies. David brought dessert, individual chocolate soufflés he'd made that morning, each one perfect. He charmed my mother with stories about his grandmother's recipes, helped my father with the grill, and didn't check his phone once during dinner. The absence of deception was intoxicating. When Adam clinked his glass for speeches, he called me up first. My sister taught us something important at our rehearsal dinner, he said, grinning. She showed us that truth, even when it detonates like a bomb at a formal dinner, is better than living a lie. So, here's my anniversary toast. May we all have the courage to trust with verification, love with respect, and if necessary, blow up a rehearsal dinner to save ourselves from beautiful deceptions. The room erupted in laughter and applause. Across the room, I caught Isaac's eye. He was there with Catherine. Both of them glowing with the simple happiness of honest love. We raised our glasses to each other. Survivors acknowledging shared victory. During my speech, I talked about trust being earned through consistent truth, not assumed through proximity. About how real love doesn't require secret meetings or saved contacts under fake names. How a marriage built on transparency might be less exciting than one built on deception, but it's also less likely to explode at a rehearsal dinner. Trust isn't blind faith, I concluded, looking at Adam and Claire. It's earned through 1,000 small truths. And if someone tells you to trust them while acting suspiciously, remember that actions speak louder than manipulative words. That night, back in my apartment, completely redecorated now with no trace of Elijah's presence, I sat with the journal Dr. Martinez had suggested. The therapist who helped me understand that exposing the affair publicly wasn't vindictive, but self-preservation. I wrote about Elijah's words that had started everything. If you trust me, you'll get it. He'd been accidentally prophetic. I had trusted him and I did get it. I got that trust without verification leads to deception. That love without respect becomes manipulation. That staying in a beautiful lie hurts more than embracing an ugly truth. But mostly I got myself back. The woman who'd existed before I'd shrunk myself to fit into Elijah's deceptions. The one who could spot lies now from a distance. Who valued truth over comfort. Who'd learned that the best revenge wasn't destroying someone else but rebuilding yourself into someone who could never be fooled again. My phone buzzed. David texting from the restaurant. Closing soon. Saved you the last piece of chocolate cake.